In last week's episode, we talked about literal small talk, the awkward weather banter at a networking event, the Zoom conversation you get stuck in that seemingly goes nowhere fast, and the idle chit-chat that can, for some people, be just draining. What we discovered is that while small talk seems small, it can act as a catalyst for bigger conversations and deep talk. What starts small can have a big impact. Today, we're going to get into figurative small talk, the language and patterns that seem little, sometimes even 3 letters or less, but they can show up in really big ways in your business and also your mindset. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty ready to stop shrinking my presence with talk that keeps me playing small. So let's get into it, shall we? Welcome to Small Business Casual, where business is personality-packed, cozy, and your pets are part of the team photo. I'm Emily Aborn, small business copywriter, and I'm here to help you turn down the noise, clarify your message, and run a business that actually fits your life. Hello, welcome back to Small Business Casual. I'm over the moon excited that you're here, whether this is your first time listening or your 128th. Ooh, that is a fun question. I'm curious to know how many of you have been here since day one. Send me a messenger pigeon if that is you, and let me know. Okay, enough of that. We're going to get right into it today. I have to say, today's topic is not an easy one. In fact, I've already caught myself several times wanting to include some of the exact things I'll be talking about in today's episode in this first 30 seconds alone. So the goal today is to really raise awareness around various ways that we incidentally diminish our brilliance, our skills, and ourselves through the way that we speak and also the way that we write. You might learn some new vocab words such as hedging, qualifiers, minimizers, disclaimers, uptalk. I don't know, maybe you heard about all this. But in either case, hopefully this will propel you into exploring the topic more for yourself outside of today's episode. I'm going to include a lot of extra resources. As always, those can be found in the extended show notes. So just follow the pointing emoji in the show notes in your podcast app. You can find those neat, tidy, and organized on my Small Business Casual Substack, which is where this body of work lives. As a small business copywriter, just a writer in general, a podcaster, a marketing consultant, you can probably guess that I have a very special interest in words and phrases and habits in our language that keep us playing small. I recently worked with a client to create an onboarding packet for her professional organizing business. And at one point we were including a letter which was supposed to be outlining policies and details of the projects. And it was just real tangible, clear-cut, boundary laying kind of stuff. Now, with this particular client, we worked out an editing sort of package. So I was really revising what she did and tightening it up. And a lot of that meant that I was removing language that beat around the bush and diminished the value that she was bringing. And in some cases, there was even a little bit of an apologetic tone. Now, I know that this woman is moving to a new, incredible level in her own business and herself. Everything is just being elevated. And it's really time for her to go in on herself, right? Have her own back. It's time for her to stop playing small and trust that she really does have something magical to share. And so it got my wheels turning. This project was kind of unfolding in tandem with me putting together last week's episode, which is when I was talking about actual small talk. And I was deep in the throes of researching that. And then suddenly this project was happening. And I was oh my gosh, Eureka, this is next. Seemingly small talk that actually plays a big role in our playing small. So for you, this might look like an email to a client, right? That starts with hi, just checking in. Or my favorite to do is sorry for the delay, even when I'm right on time. And my other favorite one is I think this could be helpful. Maybe, I feel. So the big question for us all to chew on today is going to be, why do I do this, right? Why do I use so many little words that shrink my presence in a big way? And most importantly, after I figure out kind of why I'm doing this, how do I start to become more aware of it? Because I really think awareness is key when we're trying to shift into language that does reflect confidence, that puts forth clarity and represents us as an authority in the industry that we are an expert in. So there's a book by Tara Moore, which is called Playing Big, and I'm going to definitely include a link to that in the show notes. I love this book. I read it many, many years ago, and I plan to reread it. But I love the way that she says it in her book, Playing Big. She says, these little things are attempts to walk the fine line of saying something without coming on too strong. But in fact, they convey tentativeness, self-doubt, or worse, self-deprecation. And I just think that was a really good way of saying it. If you use these words and phrases that we talk about today, there is nothing wrong with you, okay? There's nothing for us to fix. Like sometimes we need to use these things in certain instances. And a lot of this is conditioned into us, especially those who are socialized to be agreeable or to be nice. We bring in these phrases to kind of like soften, right? Or to avoid coming off as too much or coming in too hot, or in some cases to buffer ourselves from rejection. So there's like nothing wrong with us, nothing to fix here. It is simply for me about like noticing and becoming aware. And then as we do that, we can start to kind of change, like learning why we do these things helps us to kind of change naturally as we recognize, you know what, I am going all in on myself. I am going to have my own back. So we're going to talk about the fillers and the justs and the apologies and all the things that like we kind of layer into our language. They go in unnoticed, they seep in over time. And if you have been to my new website recently, if you haven't, I would highly suggest you check that out. It's emilyaborn.com. But if you've been over there recently, there is a page where I talk about I don't believe in quote unquote just words. I believe that words are intentional for communication, as well as like really shaping the world, not just around us, but also the world within us. Like the words we choose, they shape how other people perceive us, also how we perceive ourselves. Like they are no small thing. There is no quote unquote just words. Okay. So while we cling to sometimes minimizing words because it does feel safer or more protective or less vulnerable, just like with small talk, I say, you know what? It's time to learn some new tools, some new skills to move it to big talk, because the fact of the matter is our words matter. Our words matter now more than ever. And I just do not think that we came here to be like shrinking behind these protective words, right? So we're going to cover a couple categories. I have 5 for you specifically today. And I do want to get into some more that we see in copywriting and on our websites. Jenny Belanger, a web designer I collaborate with often of Jenny B Designs, she recently did an episode called What High Converting Websites Don't Do. It's episode 91. I'm going to include a link in the show notes. And I really loved a lot of what she says in her in that episode. And I'm like, I really want to take that from a copywriting perspective as well. And I'll refer a lot to her website, to her episode when I do mine. But so that resource and others are in the show notes. Today, we're just going to talk about kind of 5 broader categories. Okay, so we're not going to get copywriting specific today. Number 1, the first category is minimizers. So think of minimizers as like any word that turns down the volume. Just like words like this. Just, I'm just this, right? Only, little, simple, no big deal. So this is like anytime you're coming from a place of, I don't want to take up too much space. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to make anyone feel put upon. And so then I insert a minimizer, right? Like it's just going to help me to not feel like I'm taking up too much space. I use these often, and I don't like this about myself. I'll say things like, I just wanted to follow up, right? Or, no big deal. It's simple, easy breezy. Or I'm just a blah, 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 copywriter or podcaster or wife or whatever, sister-in-law. I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I'll just be a few minutes of your time. We're like trying to reassure people, like, don't worry, I'm not here to burden you. I'm not here to put myself upon you. I'm trying to make your life easier. And in many cases, it's really a matter of eliminating that word entirely. I've been really working on it in my emails. When I start a sentence with I just delete it. Because it does have this tone of being like kind of vaguely apologetic. And these words, In most cases, they don't need to be there. You can say, I'll be a few minutes of your time. You can say, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And then reserve the word just for when you are using it as kind of like I'll often use it as a sarcastic or intentional word to show an apparent contradiction. So, for example, if I'm trying to show how challenging something is going to be, I might jokingly describe it as like, oh yeah, as simple as bada bing, bada boom, right? Or yeah, it's just a walk in the park, right? But I'm trying to use it to like show the irony there. I will, though, however, use it very unintentionally, like often. And sometimes it happens when I'm nervous and I don't want what I'm saying. Sometimes it happens when what I'm saying, I don't want to be taken too seriously. Like, God forbid, Emily's not coming in hot here like a you-know-what on wheels, right? Okay, I want to ensure you that I'm not too serious. So let's do ourselves a favor and just take little steps to simply eliminate these only minor words from our conversations and our self-introductions, because you are a big deal. You do deserve to take up space. You deserve to be compensated. You deserve to take a few minutes of somebody's time to ask any questions you want and to be taken seriously, no matter how easy, quote unquote, how easy breezy a task is for you. Category number 2 is hedging and qualifying. Hedging is sneaky. This is language that makes our statements, it's that beat around the bush language, okay? It's language that makes our statements sound uncertain or tentative, like we're kind of buffering someone from our opinions or our boundaries instead of just laying them out clearly and owning them. And that is what my client was dealing with in her welcome letter. So examples that I see a lot are things like, oh, I think this could help. I feel like we should. I sort of think we should go in a different direction. Or I kind of, maybe, actually, hopefully. I actually have a question. Hopefully this will help. Maybe this will. So we can just trim the hedges, bye-bye to the qualifiers. You don't actually have an opinion or thought. You have an opinion or thought. Like, this is not a surprise. You are a smart, capable human. Of course you have a thought. Of course you have an opinion. If you feel like or think we should, just say, you know what, let's go in a different direction. I'm not comfortable with this option. Instead of maybe this will or hopefully this will, you can actually just say this will or this is. And if there is a chance that it's not going to work, there are other better ways to say it than kind of like hedging yourself, right? Like qualifying yourself or hoping that it's going to work out for somebody. So that's number 2, hedging and qualifiers. Category number 3, because I am feeling the need to right now offer you a disclaimer, we're going to do disclaimers next. My disclaimer is legit. Mine is legit. Sometimes we do use these things in our speech. Okay, this is my disclaimer for the whole episode. Sometimes we use these things in our speech, and sometimes we need to. Like, if you're not sure something is a fact, you might say, I think, or I believe, okay? I'm not talking about those instances. I'm talking about when we catch ourselves doing this, but the root of it is the fact that we are not stepping up, the fact that we are not owning our own awesome sauceness, power, and worth, okay? So that's my disclaimer. Disclaimer over. Now let's get into disclaimers. My friend, I do these a lot. I use them when I'm put on the spot to share a piece of knowledge, advice, or opinion. And I haven't had, hours, days, weeks, months to think it through. So I will say something along the lines of, well, this is just off the top of my head, but, or, okay, I haven't thoroughly researched this yet, or I'm terrible brainstorming on the fly. I say that a lot. I'm not an expert, but I'm sure you're going to need another opinion, but here's mine. Or for what it's worth right now, where I stand in this moment today, without having done any research or simply just pulling this out of my armpit, here's what I think. I watch people do this a lot in a variety of different ways, okay? They'll be like, okay, I just tossed this together. I don't know if I actually really did it right. I just whipped this up as a draft. Oh, I'm no good at this thing, but I decided to do it anyway. You know what? We don't have to have poured hours into something to have created it. We don't have to have poured hours of research and thought and time and exploring into something to have an opinion on it. And in some cases, to be an expert. But also, we are all works in progress, and we're allowed to offer our thoughts as works in progress. So another way to like kind of steer away from that is saying, here are some of my thoughts, or here's my thought in progress, or here's the thought I'm working on. Here's how I see it at this point. Let's keep brainstorming this together, right? You don't need to tell them like, okay, this is about to suck completely. It's going to be totally wrong. Don't listen to me. I have nothing to say, but here's what I'm going to say. So that's a disclaimer. I see people do it a lot in the writing world. Like, this is total and utter garbage, but, right, I'm going to read it anyway. Or I didn't really understand the prompt, but here's what I came up with. Like, we just don't need to do that. We can just actually share the thing. And again, there are lots and lots of reasons why we did this. I clearly didn't get into them all. That's why you have to go read Tara Moore's book, Playing Big, because she does get into them all. Okay, number 4 is sorry, apologizing. I lived in the Alps in France for 4 months in my 20s, working in a ski chalet and taking care of an American couple and their guests. Now, it sounds very glamorous. It was highly unglamorous, let me just tell you. I was basically a glorified maid, which was fine. It's just not what I had signed up for. So while I was in France, I thought I would become like, okay, this is my vision. I was like, I'm going to become so good at French. I'm going to be so good at French. In fact, they're going to mistake me for being French. Although I must say, in order for all that to happen, I probably should have not just paid half attention to the French tutoring lessons I got before I went. The whole time I was taking those lessons, I was like, oh yeah, I've got this. I'm a natural. I learned Spanish, didn't I? No problemo. So when I got to France, do you want to know the phrase I probably said the most in French? I will tell you, because I'm not going to keep you guessing. Je suis désolé. Like, désolé, if I wasn't moving fast enough in the grocery store, if I misspoke a French word, if I stood for 1 second too long at a ski lift adjusting my goggles or my gloves, whatever the case may be, désolé, which is in English, sorry. Now, unfortunately, this syndrome is not limited only to my French speaking days. I say sorry a lot. Sorry to bother you. Sorry for the dumb question. Sorry to ask. Sorry for taking up your time. Sorry for the delay. Sorry for existing. I am so sorry. I swear to all the gods, it is not my fault. My best friend Anna in high school, may she rest in peace, used to say sorry all the time. And I would hear her and say, why is she so sorry? She is so splendid. In fact, she was world's most splendid. Like, Anna had no reason to be sorry. Yet, there I was doing the exact same thing, and I never batted an eye. Now, when you have an actual apology to make, that is the time to say sorry. Existing, sending an email, asking a question, saying hello to somebody, those are not reasons to apologize. Sorry to bother you when you're just texting your friend. You don't need to do that. My husband catches me a lot in this, and I'm really trying to catch myself in it too. I can do it when I'm writing an email a little bit better than I can do it in just like everyday speech in life. I try to eliminate sorry and say something like, thanks for your patience, or thanks for your support, or thanks for understanding, or thanks for your time, rather than like, sorry for dumping all that on you, right? Thank you. Thank you for listening to me so much. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for understanding. So I have a couple accountability buddies who, we go back and forth on like leaving each other like Voxers or voice memos. And sometimes when you're using those kind of apps, they're a little bit like long, or I do it on Instagram actually as well with the voice memo thing. Sometimes you go on and you're like a little disoriented and you're here and there. And I'm like, oh, so sorry. This was so disorganized. Like, oh, I'm sorry that talking to you didn't have like some perfect outline. No. So when we catch ourselves, when we catch each other, we all remind each other, you know what? It is like a delight to listen to each other. When I see your name pop up in my text messages and you've left me a very long voicemail, I am delighted. So don't be sorry, please. Do not be sorry taking up my time. Do not be sorry that you openly shared something with me. I'm like very excited by that. I do it out of habit. I think some of us do it out of politeness. Some of us do it because we don't want to take up space or we're sorry we exist. You don't have to be sorry, and we should work to eliminate that word from our vocabulary, we don't have to apologize if you have done nothing wrong. And you now have officially entered my accountability circle. So if you hear me saying it, you got to catch me in it. Okay, number 4, and I will do the same for you if you want me to. Number 4, filler words. Most of you know by now the filler words like, anyway, so, but, those kinds of things. Like is another one. And you may be surprised to know that I actually don't think that all of these filler words are that bad. So I heard a great episode, and I will link to it in the show notes, of the Grammar Girl podcast with Mignon Fogarty, my grammar idol, about how filler words are part of our evolution and our community building as humans and language. So basically, they kind of clue us in as we use them. They clue us in to various things about to happen in a conversation. You don't, of course, want to riddle a speech with uhs and ums if you can help it. And they, see, I caught myself, and they also do something for the human brain, like cluing us into what is next. What I am talking about when I'm talking about filler words is not necessarily those. It is all about noticing the words that can dilute our clarity. So, for example, like is a really good one for me. I use it all the time, and it dilutes my expertise and it dilutes my clarity. I've been using like since I was like 14, and my friend Beth's dad made fun of us all the time for using it like a couple of tweeny boppers, which we were. But now I'm really working on starting sentences that do not include the word like and eliminating them, reducing them whenever possible. Same with so, same with but. So those, as I say so, those are more interesting filler words to me conversationally. Now, when I'm talking about the kind of words that we would use on our website or in our copy or in our social media content, I'm thinking words such as I believe, I think, I feel, I can. I'm always trying to help my clients remove those, because the fact of the matter is you can just say what you believe. You can just say what you think. You can say what you feel. You can say what you can do or what you will do. Like a lot of people will say, I will do this, right? Just say what you're going to do without adding those things. And it actually makes it a lot more powerful. I wrote for an interior designer recently. She had all of these fantastic I believe statements. She had written them up as part of a branding exercise. And my idea was really to make them become kind of art on the page. And I wanted them to have a pop. And so we ended up turning those I believes into fact. So instead of saying I believe whatever, pizza is the best thing about New York City, we would just say pizza is the best thing about New York City. Now, we use them in a very artistic way, but there's other instances I can give you. So instead of saying I can do this, 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 and this for you, just say I offer X, Y, and Z, or I help you with X, Y, and Z. You don't have to say I will help you. So it's just those kind of little tiny things that when you catch them, you're like, you know what, I can just remove it, and it actually ends up making it a lot more powerful. I also recently heard on this same topic of filler words, I recently heard a great podcast on Podcasting Made Simple where the guest Shayna Davis talks about filler words such as, I love that, or, oh, that is such a great question. There are all these kind of phrases that she talks about guests using that end up distracting from what they're trying to share and the power of the words that they're sharing. So if you're interested in filler words, if that's a place you kind of get stuck, it's certainly one for me. I'm very guilty of being like, I love that when I just have nothing to say, or I want to make the other person feel good before I get into my own thing, which could be completely different from what they just said. But I'm like, I got to make them feel good. So if you want to dig more on that, there's a place to check that out as well in the show notes. When clarity could be better conveyed without those filler words, you can just eliminate them altogether. That is my belief anyway. Okay, I believe that. To poke a little fun at myself here. Okay. Last one, permission seeking. This might be a generational thing, though I am not entirely sure. I notice that people who are about 50 to 65 are more likely to do this. This is using, I would say it's almost repetitive too. It'll be things like, does this make sense? Is that okay? Is it all right if? Do you know what I'm saying? That's my mom's favorite. That's my mom's favorite. She'll say, do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? And I've noticed it with my peers and also my own self in other ways. So even if we don't use these exact phrases. Now, I think it's well intended because what you're trying to do is you're trying to like check in with people, make sure that what you're saying is a landing. You certainly don't, of course, want to talk over anybody and you don't want to leave them confused. But what ends up happening is that it comes across as like, well, I'm not really sure if I even made sense just then or a point, or I don't know if I was coherent. Like I may have been passed out just back then. I don't know. I always want to reassure my mom. And anytime I hear somebody say it, I want to be like, yes, I understand what you were saying. You were like completely speaking English. This is, for some reason, deeply ingrained for a lot of people. And there are a lot of stereotypes out there that we face that for women specifically, oh, she's just babbling along, right? Or rambling on unintelligently, not making sense. And I think that is where this came from. I can't be sure of that. But a small swap that we can make right away is to ask about their experience instead of like trying to say, oh, I'm sure I'm confusing you right now, right? We can simply say things like, how did that land for you? Do you have any questions for me? What are your thoughts? Are you ready to move forward? So I just want to remind us that we don't need to make ourselves small to ensure that the person on the other side is on the same page with us when we're communicating with them. And oopsies, or maybe a surprise bonus, I have one more. Number 6. Last but certainly not least, nor smallest, deflectors, diminishers. Sometimes these take the form of self-effacing humor. This is like when somebody gives you a compliment on your hair or your outfit, and you're like, oh, thanks. It's just a rare, right? Keyword rare, good hair day. Or you take it in a totally different direction. Like, oh, please don't look at the pimples on my face or the gray hairs. In business, it might look like, oh, thank you. It's just all the credit to so-and-so, or, oh, I just got lucky. It was nothing. Anybody can do my job. It's so easy. Right place, right time. It was nothing. We're allowed to just say thank you. You can say, oh, I'm so glad I could help you. I'm so glad that my message helped you today. I'm so glad you enjoyed the episode. You can just say thank you for noticing, or thank you for seeing me. As my friend Elena De Stefano so classily says, thank you for noticing. It's time to own your beauty, your brilliance, your expertise, and yourself, and you don't need to apologize for it or shoo it aside. And I'm talking about in our copy, in our messaging, in our conversations, in our correspondence. Figurative small talk, these little things that are like seemingly small, they can erode our authority big time over time. And they're often reflective of bigger inner monologues and messages that we can become aware of, and we can start to work on dismantling and deconstructing and rewiring, because we don't want that. We did not come here for that. We are here to elevate. We are here to communicate with confidence and with clarity. So I want to make sure that before we wrap up, I share that book again, Playing Big by Tara Moore. I read it about 10 years ago or so, and it was incredibly impactful. She has a chapter 8, which actually has a lot of what we discussed exactly here today. She also speaks to uptalk, rushing and piling on, which I'm about to do right now as we start bumping up to the time I want to hit for this episode, and so much more. She goes really deep into not just what these things are, but also why we do them and different ways, big picture things on how to really play bigger, step up, and lead. And I think it helps us to unravel these, starting with our language, or I should say, including our language. And so along with the book suggestion, other ideas for starting to nip these little things in the bud are asking a friend or a colleague to just kind of be your accountability buddy, help catch you with love and steer you back. You're not going to go crazy with it, but maybe you just kind of have somebody else in your life who is an accountability buddy for you in this area. Another one is to practice with just one word or one phrase that you're going to decide to drop this week. So maybe for you, it's the word just. And instead of saying the word just, you just delete it. You say it directly. Or maybe it's the word sorry. And instead of sorry, you say thank you. Instead of I think or I believe or I feel, you just say what you think, feel, or believe. And maybe for you, it's the compliments one. And you just need to learn to accept compliments, say thank you, and give credit with genuine acceptance and gratitude. The other thing I would love for you to do is give Jenny Belanger's episode, What High Converting Websites Don't Do, a listen. Again, the link is in the show notes. And my last idea for when it comes specifically to your writing is to put your writing into an AI tool and ask it to review what you wrote and look for anywhere that you are minimizing or hedging words or apologizing or diminishing your light. Chat GPT specifically has a very good eye. That's what I use. It has a very good eye for those kinds of things. And it can help you to kind of pull out the clarity where maybe you've just piled on your own mindset stuff, right? So on that note, I will chat with you next week. I cannot wait for this episode. I'm going to be joined by one of my most cozy, slipper-loving friends, Lindsay Dreyer, and we're going to discuss whether or not it is time to consider a rebrand, or maybe you just need a haircut. And I do mean just. I hope to see you then, and I will chat with you next week. Thanks for joining me on this week's episode of Small Business Casual. If you love the show, make sure to rate, review, and share it with a frazzled business owner that you care about. Because this shouldn't feel like a roller coaster ride, more like a scenic train ride with snacks. Don't forget those snacks.